स्टडी IQ IAS, अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल।
Hello students, welcome to Study IQ's initiative, the podcast. I am your host Dipansh Murjani. In the last episode of the podcast, we had discussed what is a finance bill. And in today's episode, we are going to understand all the provisions related to joint sitting of Parliament. Sir, can you give us some brief information about joint sitting of our Parliament?
Before we start, I want to tell you something, that this is not an advertisement. However, it is a global vision of StudyIQ to provide most affordable and effective education. In our Prelims to Interview program, that is P2I program, you will be accompanied by the best faculties of the field, and you will also receive the one-to-one mentorship in this program. Moreover, you will receive prelims as well as mains test series according to UPSC syllabus. So, for huge discount, you can use my code AVLIVE. All the links are pinned in the comment section.
According to Article 108 of the Constitution, which provides an extraordinary machinery of joint sitting to resolve a deadlock between the two houses over the passage of any bill. Provisions of joint sitting is applicable to ordinary bills or finance bills only, and it cannot be used against constitutional amendments and even for the case of money bill.
Sir, can you throw some light on potential situations due to which deadlock or disagreement between two houses of the Parliament arises?
After a bill has been passed by one house and transmitted to the other house, then if the bill is rejected by other house, number 2, if the house have finally disagreed as to the amendments which were proposed to be made in the bill, and in third case, if more than 6 months have been elapsed from the date of the receipt of the bill by other house without the bill being passed by it. In the above situation, the President has power to summon both the houses to meet in a joint sitting for the purpose for resolving this deadlock and voting on the bill finally. In reckoning the period of 6 months, no account can be taken of any period during which the other house is prorogued or adjourned for more than 4 consecutive days. One thing is to be remembered that the provisions of joint sitting is not applicable to following types of bills. Number 1, as I have already discussed, money bill under Article 110 and even the constitutional bill under Article 368. If the dispute bill has already lapsed due to the dissolution of the Lok Sabha, no joint sitting can be summoned, except the President has notified his intention to summon such a sitting before that dissolution. After the President notifies to the summon a joint sitting of the two houses, none of the houses can proceed further with that bill.
Sir, as you had mentioned that during a joint sitting of Parliament, President never presides that joint sitting. So, who is the presiding officer in case of joint sitting, and what is the quorum of joint session?
The chairman of Rajya Sabha does not preside over a joint sitting as he is not a member of either house of a parliament, being a vice president. One thing is to be remembered that the Speaker of Lok Sabha is the first preference as a presiding officer for a joint sitting of both the houses, and if he is absent, then the Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha will preside the joint sitting, and if in case the Deputy Speaker is also absent, then the joint sitting will be chaired by Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, and even if he is also absent, then any member who has been elected among the member of the joint sitting will preside the joint sitting. The quorum for joint sitting is 1/10 of the total numbers of members of the two houses. The joint sitting is governed by the rules of procedures of Lok Sabha and not of Rajya Sabha. Majority of the total numbers of members of both the houses present and voting in the joint sitting. That means a simple majority is required to pass any bill when it is deadlocked in the joint sitting. Most of the time it have been seen that Lok Sabha with the greater numbers wins the battle in a joint sitting to pass any deadlock bill. The Constitution has specified that any joint sitting will not have new amendments except in the two conditions, which are number 1, those amendments can be allowed which have to cause final disagreement between the houses. to resolve that these amendments can be done. Number 2, those amendments that might have become necessary due to the delay in the passage of the bill.
Sir, can you enlighten us about those bills under which we have seen a joint sitting?
Since independence, we passed 75 years. Now we will try to understand there are only 3 instances where the joint sitting have been called by the President. The first case was in 1961 when the dowry prohibition bill was introduced and where Lok Sabha was disagreeing for the amendments proposed to the bill. And that's when the deadlock happened and President summoned for the joint sitting. The second case was 1978 when the Banking Service Commission Reform Bill was introduced and when it was passed by Lok Sabha. However, Rajya Sabha rejected that bill. And in that case, to resolve this deadlock, President have summoned joint sitting in 1978. And third joint sitting we can observe in 2002 when the Prevention of Terrorism Bill was introduced where Rajya Sabha rejected the bill. Then also to resolve this deadlock, President have summoned joint sitting.
Sir, can you elaborate some issues which are related to joint sitting of Parliament?
Because of sweeping majority, most of the bills easily get passed by Lok Sabha in joint sitting. This makes the position of Rajya Sabha virtually weakened in federal democratic polity of India. Moreover, joint sitting is usually presided over by Lok Sabha Speaker and joint sitting is also governed by the rules of Lok Sabha. This also reduces the role of Rajya Sabha in joint sitting. The majority required in joint sitting is simple majority and present and voting. This makes the passage of disputed bills even more easy for Lok Sabha or any ruling government which is highest in number in Lok Sabha. In the last 75 years, only 3 joint sittings have been held as I have discussed earlier. And this is also an issue where we question the tool of joint sitting to resolve any deadlock.
Sir, can you enlighten us about the solutions of these issues?
It is very important to understand any issue and it is very important to give the way forward for those issues. The first way forward can be strengthening position of Rajya Sabha in proceedings of joint sitting. It can be done when the rules of only Lok Sabha is being implemented in joint sitting. However, there can be a mixed approach in proceedings of joint sitting. Rajya Sabha should function as a revising chamber more effectively and upon the expectations of constitution makers, which will strengthen the position of Rajya Sabha at first instance. Simple majority which exercised in joint sitting should be revised as a special majority. It is because due to this special majority, the role of Rajya Sabha will increase. The next suggestion is that exploring the possibility and feasibility of presiding officer other than the Speaker of Lok Sabha to impart independent and impartial viewpoint to resolve conundrum. The next point of way forward is that focus in joint sitting must be on 3 Ds, which are dialogue, discussion and dissension. This will ultimately strengthen the democratic fabric of Indian polity.
Sir, thank you for giving us the information. Dear listeners, we will call it quits for this episode of the podcast. In the next episode, we will discuss another topic, so stay connected with StudyIQ and keep studying. You can listen to StudyIQ Presents the podcast on all the audio streaming platforms like Spotify, Hubhopper, Apple Podcast, Kuku FM, etc. Links are pinned in the comment section below. Thank you.